Citizen Vigilante is one of those films where the idea hits really hard, but the filmmaking keeps tripping over itself. The message about our broken justice system is powerful and absolutely necessary, yet the execution feels suffocating, choppy, and underdeveloped. In the end, Armie Hammer's performance offers flashes of intensity, but the script and structure are so flawed that he can't salvage the movie on his own. Citizen Vigilante is a vigilante action thriller written and directed by Uwe Boll, with Armie Hammer starring as Sanders, a former military man who decides to take justice into his own hands by standing up for the most vulnerable and less fortunate, by hunting down criminals and corrupt officials who, in his view, have slipped through the cracks of our legal system. The film presents this crusade as a kind of viral phenomenon, turning him into a social media hero while putting him at odds with law enforcement. Beyond the plot itself, the film has become notorious for its extreme violence and its focus on migrant perpetrators, leading German regulators to refuse it a rating and effectively ban its release there on the grounds that it could incite violence against immigrants. On paper, this should be a tense, morally complex thriller, but in practice, the film often feels like being trapped in a rant rather than immersed in a story. The narrative is fragmented and non-linear, with scenes jumping around in time in ways that confuse us more than they deepen Sanders' journey. As a result, big emotional beats never get room to breathe. The movie keeps explaining what it wants us to feel instead of letting us arrive there naturally, making it feel exposition-heavy, choppy, and oddly boring for a film about a man on a violent crusade. The film's thematic target is clear. It wants to condemn our justice system that lets victims down and allows horrific crimes to be met with lenient sentences, even dedicating itself to European rape and murder victims who have been betrayed by the legal system. That core message, that something is deeply wrong when the law fails to protect the vulnerable, is undeniably thought-provoking and relevant, especially in light of real cases that inspired the story. However, the way the film chooses to dramatize that outrage by repeatedly centering migrant criminals and vigilante executions means it easily tips from critique of the system into incendiary political provocation, which is exactly why some observers see it as an anti-immigrant exploitation piece rather than a serious exploration of justice. The film repeatedly tells us that the courts are failing and that Sanders' methods are a direct response to institutional collapse, but it rarely shows us the complexity of that collapse beyond a handful of shocking crimes and one-note courtroom outcomes. Instead of digging into systemic issues like how media, politics, and public fear interact, the script leans on extended monologues, news segments, and social media reactions that feel more like bullet points in a manifesto than organic storytelling. Because of that, characters around Sanders, victims, police, politicians, ordinary citizens, often feel underwritten and instrumental, existing mainly to validate or condemn his actions rather than to challenge our assumptions in a nuanced way. Where Citizen Vigilante does succeed is in forcing us to confront our own reactions to vigilante fantasies. When the system fails, do we instinctively cheer for someone like Sanders, or do we pull back and question what it means to legitimize this kind of violence? The film's dedication to victims and its repeated emphasis on lenient sentences do push real uncomfortable questions about accountability and public trust in institutions onto the table, questions that are worth discussing long after the credits roll. Yet, because the movie leans so hard into a specific, migrant-focused framing, those important questions are tangled up with a politicized, polarizing lens that may shut down conversation instead of opening it up. The film's core anger at our failing justice system is legitimate and even necessary, while being honest that the movie itself is a deeply flawed vessel for that anger, boring where it should be tense, over-explained where it should be subtle, and underdeveloped where it most needs nuance. Armie Hammer's presence and a few sharp ideas can't overcome a script that feels more interested in shock and provocation than building a cohesive, emotionally rich narrative, which is why this experience lands as suffocating rather than cathartic. In a way, Citizen Vigilante might be most valuable not as entertainment, but as a conversation starter.
Hey, want more Wrightflicks reviews? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it.